This show is brought to you by Comark, the global loyalty partner trusted by enterprise brands in over 50 countries. With more than 30 years of experience and 290 million loyalty members on board, Comark knows what it takes to build real connections that last. Their AI-powered tools turn data into action and customers into superfans. From fraud-proof platforms to personalized journeys, Comark helps you boost engagement, grow revenue, and make loyalty your competitive edge. Want to see how they do it? Head over to comark.com and discover loyalty that actually works.
Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Loyalty and Loyalty TV, a show for loyalty marketing professionals. I'm Paula Thomas, the founder and CEO of Let's Talk Loyalty and Loyalty TV, where we feature insightful conversations with loyalty professionals from the world's leading brands. Today's episode is hosted by Charlie Hills, Chief Strategy Officer of Mando Connect, a UK-based agency that uses smart data to create brilliant partnerships and rewards that really work. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Let's Talk Loyalty. As Paula mentioned, I'm Charlie Hills, the Chief Strategy Officer for Mando. In this episode, I'm delighted to interview Jakub and John from the global and UK Shell Go Plus teams. Jakub is the Europe and North America loyalty and CRM lead at Shell, where he's been driving customer engagement and commercial value since joining in 2021. Prior to joining Shell, he spearheaded the end-to-end design and launch of the Foot Locker membership program in Europe. Jakub is a firm believer in the power of building meaningful emotional relationships with customers to ensure the long-term success and value of loyalty programs. John is the head of loyalty and CRM for Shell UK. He's been in the industry for all his career, working across big and small companies, agency and client side, including brands like Shell and Vodafone, and sectors including financial services, home energy, retail and banking. Today, we're going to be learning all about their favourite books, highlights and key learnings from the programmes they've worked on, and all about what loyalty looks like now and in the future for Shell. I really hope you enjoy our conversation today. So hello, I'm so pleased to have you both on the episode today. What a treat to have two such brilliant guests. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Charlie. Very glad to be here. Thank you for having us.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Charlie. Great to be here. Thank you.
It's going to be a really good one, and what a pleasure to have a representative of the global Shell team and also the UK Shell team on the call. That's great. So we've got Jakub from the global team and John from the UK team. So it should be a really, really good episode. But before we get into all the brilliant details about Shell Go Plus, I'm going to open with our favourite question because we're building quite the library recommendation here at Let's Talk Loyalty. So Jakub, I'll ask you first. What is your favourite book about life, leadership or loyalty?
So the book that really resonates with me is actually called Surrounded by Idiots by Thomas Erickson. It is a book. It's a book I received from a former colleague of mine after starting to work in the international environment. Because this book really talks about the different type of personalities using the DISC system and really how important is the communication with different people in a different way and form. And it really unpacks the importance of not only looking at the communication from your own perspective, but also trying to understand the other people that you're communicating with. And it really talks about the self-awareness, the understanding of the other profiles, and really how in a business and as a leader, it's always about the other people that you need to learn how to listen, and also not only about how you like to be spoken to, but also how the people that you speak to actually like to be communicated. And when I think about this book right now, I actually think it really resonates as well with the loyalty aspect, because there's no such thing as an average customer. And really every customer likes to be communicated differently. They expect different things. So I think this book also helps me in a day-to-day business and really how we talk about the communication in the loyalty space.
That's a brilliant recommendation. And I think you're the first person to talk about that book, so I'm sure everyone's going to be downloading it now. What about you, John?
So my favorite book actually changes a lot. So I'm going to zoom in on a book that I'm close to finishing at the moment, which is Thinking in Bets by Annie Duke. And she was a former professional poker player. And she really talks about how all decisions that we make are ultimately bets based on imperfect data. And I think for me, it resonates a lot with the world of loyalty, where you can do incredibly sophisticated business cases, but ultimately you're feeding in assumptions and ideas and thoughts about how customers are going to behave. But it's really a bet, and you just have to take controlled bets all the time across a whole range of different things. So she's very good at sort of explaining that sort of architecture in terms of how you make decisions, which I think is great. The other thing that she brings out really well is I think is this whole notion of looking back and forward in time on decisions. And one of the things that we've used actually before I read the book was this whole notion of pre-mortems, where if you're doing a huge, whether it's a huge launch or anything else that you're doing, really listing out in detail all the things that can go wrong and preparing fully in advance. So I think it's a very interesting read coming from a different perspective.
Yeah, that's really cool. And that nice, again, the application to sort of personal life, but also professional life. We're getting that in a lot of the recommendations, actually, that those business books are kind of going that way. And then I get quite a few guests who come on as well, and they talk about a sort of a more personal, non-work related book and then how it applies as well. So those are two really great recommendations. Thank you for sharing. What about loyalty programs that you like? Let's start with you, Kuba. What's your favorite loyalty program at the moment and why?
Yeah, so besides, of course, Shell Go Plus that we have, my favorite ones are Nike membership and Sephora Beauty Insider.
Nice.
And I'm part of the Nike membership. I'm not part of this Sephora, but I think the reason why I kind of look up into those programs is because they really look at the loyalty from a different angle. They both focus on the meaningful experience that the brand delivered to the customers, and they really go beyond just a simple transactional benefits. Especially Nike, I mean, they really focus on the community building, and really in the fashion industry, it's really important to make sure that you deliver a story to your audience. It's not about just a simple message. It's not about the communication, but it's actually the story building around the products that they have. And what really, I mean, with those two brands and those two programs is really that, the exclusivity that comes with being their member. Nike has this thing called a sneaker day, which really brings customers closer to the sneaker community. There's an exclusive event, but also as a user of the app, you can actually get access to behind the scenes content and really can understand the logic, the thinking behind some of the collaboration that came to life. So I think those programs really is how to really evolve the standard loyalty program that we have elsewhere.
That's really nice. And for those of you that don't have the privilege of knowing Kuba, you'll know he's an absolute sneaker guru. And if we weren't on a professional recording at the moment, I'd get him to put his foot up on screen, because I can guarantee he's wearing an absolutely amazing pair today. What about you, John? What are your favourite programmes? Anything to do with shoes?
Funny enough, no. But look, being UK based, I think you always have to mention the big three. So Colour Boots, Nectar. What I like about them is not only the scale, but how deeply embedded they are within those businesses. And I think the teams there have done a great job in terms of that scale and embedding. I think the other one that always stands out for me as well, I've always been a big fan of it, is Vitality. I think the way that they both have the partnerships and the way that they nudge behavior to align with their outcomes is a tremendous program. Again, I think the team has done a fantastic job there.
Yeah, those are brilliant examples. And I think Vitality comes up a lot, actually. That concept of brand appropriate reward for brand appropriate behavior, it makes it such a popular program professionally. Personally, people just really like the sausage dog and the Apple Watch as well. So I think it's really nice that it's got that balance of like really smart kind of loyalty, behavioral science and nudges and rewards and partnerships built into it. And then they also kind of remember to make people smile, which is really nice. They recently did a very cute little game where you could find the Daxi. And that was a really sweet example actually of emotion within like a really kind of cleverly built program. So yeah, those are excellent case studies. Everyone go check them out. We'll stick them in the show notes. What about your backgrounds in loyalty and what you enjoy about working in loyalty marketing? Kuba, we'll start again with you, although I feel like John's getting a head start on this because he gets to think about every question whilst you try and steal some of the things he might want to say in your answer to, up the game a little bit, make it a bit harder for him. But yeah, what about your background in loyalty marketing and why you like it?
Yeah, no, so journey started about 12 years ago when I joined Payback college program in Poland as a business consultant.
Yeah.
And actually, funny enough, when I joined Payback, at the start, I didn't realize it's actually all about loyalty. I thought it would be more going towards like finance, payment, essentially like PayPal type of thing. But actually, when I joined the company, I had no knowledge of loyalty. I didn't know what it is. So actually, it was a very steep learning curve for me. But during that time, I really had a chance to work on multiple different projects and brands, and really gave the first insights into the customer loyalty, the first-party data, the importance of customer segmentations. After that, I joined Food Locker. So as you already mentioned, this was the time where I grew my passion for sneakers.
Mm-hmm.
And within the first 3 months, I think I got from like a few pairs to like more than 20, 30 pairs of sneakers.
Wow.
So it was really, the brand itself had a big impact on myself. And also, being responsible for launching their first European loyalty program called FLX membership was a big part of this. And really that opened up the way I look at the loyalty and really going into that emotional experience base. It's really building that long-term relationship with the customers. I think those 2 years at Food Locker really shaped how I kind of view loyalty at this stage. And then back in 2021, I started as a loyalty and CRM lead at Shell. So I started supporting the North America markets in driving customer engagement. And then since last year, I also expanded my role to the European markets. So I work very closely with John. But what I love about the loyalty marketing, I think for me is really continuously learning curve. I mean, the learning never stops. The loyalty programs do change. I mean, what drives customer today will not drive them 2 days from now. Yeah. So it's really important to make sure that, we continuously educate ourselves and test new things in the market. And since there's no such thing as an average customer, I mean, we continuously need to find ways, whether it's a small program or a big program, to really give customers this feeling of a local store, a store where when you enter, the seller actually knows you. They choose you by your name. They know what you want to buy. And for us, I mean, through loyalty, we can do that, even though the base is few million customers. With the data that we have access to, you still can deliver that feeling and the emotions. I think that's what's really been driving me with loyalty marketing.
It's really nice. And it's great to hear that from a mega brand like Shell. A lot of brands talk about having millions of customers, but you guys really mean it. That global footprint is huge. What about you, John? I know you've worked in lots of sectors and lots of kind of very recognizable brands. What are your favorite things, and what's your sort of background in loyalty marketing?
Yeah, thanks, Charlie. I mean, I've pretty much spent my entire career in some sort of data-driven marketing space. Actually started at Vodafone in a CRM role and have moved on to lots of different companies and lots of different things from there. But, the common thread has been some sort of loyalty, CRM or related anchor throughout everything that I've done. I've been on the client side and I've been, agency side, financial services, retail, home energy. I'm trying to think. I think I've been in most sectors actually along the way.
Quite the list.
Absolutely. But the thing that always interests me about this space, and the reason why I've probably done it for so long, is that it always comes across having the perfect blend of so many different things. You've got data science, you've got behavioral science. There's a strong element, of course, of commerciality. There's an aspect of design. There's an aspect of product management. There's technology. It's kind of like everything combined into one area. So that's what I find so interesting. One day you could be having a conversation about an incredibly complex technology issue, and then the next moment you're talking about some sort of wonderful creative that we're planning. So it's so varied, and you don't get that in many roles, actually.
No, that's a really common theme in loyalty, actually. I get that from a lot of my guests, where they talk about the fact they get to work across so many disciplines, but also so many areas of the business and with so many partners. So it's a lovely kind of quite holistic role, I think. That comes out a lot from our guests. I mean, talking of holistic, Kuba, obviously we've talked about you sitting in the global team and your role for that. And Shell, I think, is probably one of the programs who's in the most markets in the world. Are you able to share with a few of our listeners about how you actually manage that? How do you look at loyalty across all those different markets and all those different models? And what are the sort of key principles that you use that unite everything? Because I know Shell doesn't do a one-size-fits-all approach, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, no, we don't. And you think about Shell, right? It's one of the largest retail network in the world with like 46,000 stations. And we are operating loyalty program in more than 25 markets across 3 regions, with really millions of customers who are engaging with us on a monthly basis. And those customers are different. So what unites Shell loyalty? I think it's the commitment to drive the share of wallet, what we call share of heart and share of life for our customers. So whether you are an engager with a program in Europe, in Asia, or in North America, the experience, the feel that we want to provide to you is distinct to Shell. So it's rewarding, it's trusted, and it's easy to use. And when you work with so many different markets, it's really in practice to ensure that you have a unified vision where every single market that we work with really bites into our Shell global loyalty strategy. The only way to do it is by collaborating very closely with the markets, right? Spending times and days with them, talking about the vision that we want to achieve, and ensuring that those markets buy into this strategy really helps us to grow. Second aspect, which is very important at Shell, is learner mindset. Yep. So because we collaborate with markets, we also are able to identify opportunities and test new things. I mean, John just mentioned, right? You can do one day you can work on a complex technical element. On the second day, you actually work on the nice creatives. And really what at Shell makes us, I think, different is we test one thing in one market and then we learn from it. And if it's successful, we actually take it, we replicate, and we scale it up. However, if something doesn't work, I mean, we prefer to fail fast, right? I mean, not everything works well. Yeah. And then at the end of the day, it's all about scalable solutions and how do we maintain efficiency. So even though we don't have a one-size-fits-all, we also look for opportunities for the efficiency and speed to market. Yeah. But we always need to keep that local aspect in mind.
Nice. I think that's a really interesting approach, actually. And we're seeing, I think, lots of brands globally moving to that approach, actually, and that sort of freedom in a framework model where you've got vision and principles and testing and relationships that unite, but with that kind of tailored approach to local markets. And I think it's really wonderful, actually, to have a global representative and a market representative on the podcast, because John here is providing a wonderful case study of what freedom in a framework can look like. So what does Shell Go Plus look like in the UK, and how do you line it up to those global principles?
Yeah, so Go Plus is our main loyalty platform. It operates across 1,000 forecourts all over the UK, from Land's End, literally right up to the tip of Scotland. It is a 95% app-based program, and in terms of alignment with our global colleagues, again to what Jakub said, it's a shared vision, a lot of shared platforms and technology that we use across the estate. And we work very, very closely on our overall strategy, almost sort of hand in glove with our global colleagues. And then we adapt it locally, of course. But I think, from the point of view of the loyalty program itself, at its core, it's a points-based program. So you earn points on your fueling up, selected shop items. Recently, we've added in EV. So it's a totally fuel agnostic program. Yeah. But there's so much more to it. We've leaned into a lot of learnings from outside of the UK to create a very layered program. So, for example, we have buy 7 hot drinks, get 1 free. That was things that we picked up from other markets that we thought would be very applicable to the UK. We have member pricing. So on many of our range of shop items, whether it's items in the shop or even car wash, we do special member pricing on those. EV charging, actually, we have member pricing on EV charging. We save 10 pence per kilowatt. And then on top of that, we use a lot of the global platforms around gamification. We've leaned very heavily into personalized gamification. That's worked brilliantly for us. And then, of course, the whole CRM area. So we do a huge amount of individual personalized rewarding the scene based on customers' behavior.
Yeah. And I think it's been really interesting to watch that program evolve over the last sort of 5 to 10 years, particularly in the UK market. You can see where you sort of tried stuff out, reacted, adapted, optimized. And it's really nice, actually, that you talk about that blended approach from what you've learned from all the other markets. I mean, that's probably been quite the journey, John. What are some of the highs and lows that you've had on that journey, particularly in the UK market? And then, Kuba, it's your turn to think about the question. I'll ask you that from a global point of view.
I'm on the spot first, am I? Yeah, I think in terms of, a high would have to be we we made a major evolution in the program last year. So we moved from an older model to a new base model that was points-based, refreshed pretty much every aspect of the program. And I think the day that we launched that was a real high. And in particular, the thing that made it so good was that, as you would imagine, being a big company, across all of our forecourt, we have, in effect, sort of an internal Facebook where people can upload photos of how things are going. And we had literally all of those 1,000 sites were full of excitement, loading up photos. We had balloons out across so many forecourts. And we could see the excitement right across our estate, but also marrying up with all the great numbers that we were seeing coming through as well. Yeah. So it was a really, really good moment. That was definitely a high.
And dare I ask about a low?
Low, I mean, when you're in a big company, things can sometimes take a bit longer. They can be a little perhaps more complicated than you'd like them to be. So I think that there's been no big dramatic low, but I think clearly in a large, complex organization, there are lows in terms of things that you really want to do at a particular time. Just can't happen because there's just so much else going on.
And I think that's very common feedback, actually, that we get, particularly, Absolutely. As you say, from really big organizations. You have ideas that are just as creative, but then by the time you try and execute them, it can be more challenging. And let's scale that up one level, from a one market execution to a global kind of playing field. What about you, Kuba? Sort of some highs and lows of what loyalty looks like globally from current roles or previous, obviously.
Yeah, no, I think on the lows, let me start there. I think I do resonate with what John said, right? I think that those lows are really tied to how do we scale things faster? How do we actually bring things faster to market? And probably that's where some of the times you think you can do it faster, but actually, you need to navigate through certain challenges. But eventually we do get there. In terms of the highs for me, it's really one is being able to actually work alongside people who are so passionate about loyalty. I mean, that's with Shell, my first global role. So it's really being able to collaborate with so many different people and learn from them. And I think this has been a very big opportunity that I've been taking advantage from at Shell. And the second thing that I would call is being able to pilot things with the markets. And I think it's not always easy to get market buy-in to get things started. But I think we've had so many different initiatives that we were able to take to the market and really bring them to life and then scale it, which really been an amazing journey.
Yeah, it's really satisfying, isn't it? I love that. When a pilot works, obviously. We won't talk about when a pilot doesn't work. You have to try and figure out why. I think that brings us really nicely onto one of the things I'm most passionate about for Shell Go Plus, and I think you're probably one of the best in the world at, which is partnerships, big, meaty partnerships that really resonate with audiences globally with some sports, but also some areas beyond sports. I'm going to ask you, Kuba, this sort of question. I think many of our audience might not know. Let's hope they do, but they might not know. So what are the partnerships that Shell has, and how do you leverage and work with those in the loyalty space?
Yeah, partnerships have been a big thing for Shell and will be a big thing going forward. And we're currently focusing on a partnership that really bring mutual benefits, right? Yeah. A partnership that really can look into having similar objectives and really being on the same journey for a long term, not really short-term activation, really looking about the long-term opportunities. And as you said, I mean, we have a very strong footprint in the motorsports area. Where we partner with brands such as BMW, Nissan, Ferrari. And as the audience might not know, this year we are celebrating our 75th anniversary of partnership with Scuderia Ferrari HP team, which is a huge milestone for both companies. And really, this partnership goes beyond just a fuel, right? And in our space, it really goes towards the Shell Go Plus members. And we really work with brands like a Ferrari to elevate the experience that we provide to our customers. So last year, we decided to really come up with something completely new for our members and really tap into their passions for racing, for speed, for car. And we launched this pilot campaign. Luckily, it was a successful one, where we delivered to our members unique content that was only available to our Shell Go Plus members. We've piloted a new initiative, which actually brought our Shell V-Power customers closer to the drivers from Ferrari, and really elevate that overall experience. But our partnership doesn't really stop with the motorsports teams. It really goes beyond as well. So today we partner with different companies in different markets, with the grocery or insurance industry, like of Costa Coffee, Waitrose, Lidl, and really work with those brands to provide value-added benefits to our members, but also to partner base.
Yeah, and I think it's that diversity, but also the depth and breadth of the partnerships that you have. I mean, 75 years of a partnership is amazing. I mean, that's got to be like an industry. I think that's got to be the industry's longest kind of brand, significant lasting brand partnership. And it bakes across so many elements of your business. I absolutely love that. That's one of my absolute favorites. It brings us on quite nicely because obviously those partnerships have been hugely successful. They've evolved over time. And we know Shell measures everything. It brings us on to an interesting kind of conversation about how you look at success and what success means for the loyalty program. And John, I'll probably ask you this question because from a single market point of view, I'm sure there's some really interesting things in the UK, particularly given the innovations you've introduced recently. What are your sort of key KPIs and what does success look like for you and how do you measure it?
Yeah, as you can imagine, we've got a whole host of KPIs. We're very good at giving ourselves KPIs, and I guess there's a lot of operational KPIs that we have around the loyalty program, the CRM program, largely relating to penetration across fuel and EV and our shop sale penetration, the amount of transactions that we do, how those link back to loyalty and so on. But those are all sort of operational metrics that we track quite closely. Yeah. I would say the two biggest ones and the most important ones are really how many customers do we have in the program that are active? That's a key one for us. And then the second one we have that's really important is what is the incremental spend of customers that are in the program versus when they were not in the program. So we partner very, very closely with our data science team. They do all sorts of wonderfully clever stuff. Some of it I understand, some of it I don't. But the outcome of it is that we can keep a really close eye on the value to Shell of somebody joining the loyalty program. And then we can really see that combination of both incremental times number of customers. And that really gives us sort of a very clear number that we can go after.
Yeah, and it's really nice as well, because I think, as you say there, some programs get lost in a vast sea of KPIs, don't they? And you sort of end up trying to track 30 KPIs across, in Kubas across over 20 markets, and it can get quite overwhelming. And so I think what I really admire about the program is that focus on the kind of dominant two, and then that sort of secondary tier of operational KPIs. And those are the most important too, aren't they, for kind of proving the value of the program, but also understanding how to model it, how much to invest in it, and all of those things. Everything kind of falls out. So I think that's a really smart approach. And I'm sure your team love working on that sort of hindsight piece. That's how it's working and what it's delivering. What about looking ahead? If we take a foresight approach, I know you probably can't tell us everything, but if there is anything that you can share, what sort of areas are you looking at for the future, and what does that look like? And John, we'll start with you.
Yeah, sure. So I think in the near term, there are clear areas that we want to build out on. As Jakub has already mentioned, we want to do much more around partnerships. So I think we've got some big things that are coming up, but also we want to go further than the ones that will be coming up quite shortly. Great. I think obviously we want to make sure that we're adding more value to customers as they join the program. I think we'll see a big enhancement in the type of tangible and perhaps more emotional benefits that we load into the program. And certainly for customers that are perhaps our biggest spenders, they may find that they find a lot more to enjoy in the program as we go forward over the coming weeks and months. So that's sort of short term. And then I think really long term, if you look at what we're doing and some of the testing and piloting that we're doing with AI, and really for me, it really boils down to, can we make things more relevant? And can we decide at a per customer level the right amount to invest? And if you look at some of the things we're doing around that, I think some of it's working, some of it, we're still on a learning journey, but there's a lot of potential there that I think we can unlock around that area of using AI, not only for the way that we personalize, but also just in terms of throughput and making our processes more efficient and effective. So we get more throughput, again, with more treatments to more customers, and the two sort of go hand in hand.
Nice. And I'm sure a lot of those themes align globally as well, Kuba, but are there any extra areas that you're looking at globally or key areas for the future?
Yeah, I think looking at it from that perspective, I think one of the key elements for us is really elevating our program beyond just a transactional benefit. It's really tapping into that storytelling, into what I've mentioned from a fashion industry, right? How do we build that community? And how do we really elevate the experience that we give to our customers? Because those customers, right, are not only motorsports fan. They can be passionate about travel. They can be passionate about spa, about dining, right? And we want to tap into that element of the customer interest. And the other thing which is important for us is to also see how can we be faster in terms of replications. As I said, we have a lot of markets where we test different things, and then how do we scale it? How do we make sure that the time to market is even shorter than it is today? At the end of the day, we need to really understand the customers. We really need to find ways to be faster in responding to their new needs.
Nice. Well, you never know. Some of the stuff John and his team are looking at in AI might help you do something.
Exactly.
What sort of areas have you seen recently, or any innovations that you particularly admire? They might be something from Shell, or it might be something externally. Is there anything particularly good that you've seen recently?
I can go first on this one. So for me, it's actually what we've done last year, and really elevated that this year. Where when you think about the experiences, a lot of the people think about just those money cannot buy experiences where you can just send a single customer and they enjoy the benefit. But actually, what we managed to do is actually deliver them more of a virtual experience to customers, and really that brought them exclusively closer to the Ferrari drivers. And something that was a pilot last year is really expanded this year across Shell. And I think it was really, in a sense, innovation, a new idea, because it was never done before. So really, it picked up some nice trend that we can now actually bring even more to our customers in different markets. And really tapping, and again, going back to the customer interest, how do we make sure that we actually understand our customers beyond what they buy at Shell, but actually understanding their interests outside of Shell. And also, we are bringing these elements into our communication even more right now.
Brilliant. I can't wait to see it all roll out. And I know which markets that was piloted in. So now I was quite smug and my shoulders are all up. And isn't that fabulous? I know. And readers, you'll find out soon. Listeners, you'll find out soon.
Exactly.
Readers. What about you, John? Is there anything you've seen or done recently that you think is particularly innovative? You've already talked about quite a bit of it in the UK, but anything that stands out?
Yeah, I think the ones to call out are really, really proud of bringing EV into our loyalty program. So that means that we genuinely are fuel agnostic. So whether a customer has a traditional engine or an EV engine, they are just a customer, and we treat them as part of the program. So that was a big move for us. Lots behind it, but we're really, really pleased with that. And I think perhaps more tactically, the whole thing that we've done around gamification, lots of different approaches that we've taken there and different things over different times, that's consistently worked very well for us in terms of engaging customers. And then I think some of the things that we've done just around CRM treatments, and we've rolled in things like member weeks where people get 5 times points for certain purchases. Not in itself, groundbreaking, but has worked really well for us, and we're really pleased with it. So there's been a few things that we've done locally that, we can look back on and say,
really
it's
nice.
worked really well.
I love the fact that you've got the really kind of big new stuff and then the little stuff in as well. And I think actually you can get a lot from making those little changes. And sometimes they don't feel as big, do they? But actually, when they all add up, it's quite a nice cumulative effect. So that's really lovely to get that global perspective and then that UK perspective. Well, look, thank you so much for sharing as much as you've been able to today on this podcast. It's been absolutely brilliant, and I really have enjoyed that view of the UK market versus the global view. I'm sure some of our listeners or watchers might have some extra questions for you. What's the best way to reach out to you both? Kuba, you first, and then John.
Yeah, I mean, feel free to reach out via the LinkedIn contact.
Great. I'll put Kuba's profile details in the show notes for you so you can get through to him on LinkedIn. And is that the same for you, John?
Exactly the same. LinkedIn's perfect.
Oh, wonderful. And then we'll also put links to the programme as well in the show notes. Well, look, all that's left for me to say is thank you so much. That was a brilliant episode. And I'm loving the wintry backgrounds as well. So that's really nice too. So hopefully that's a visual treat for our watchers, and the rest of you who just listen are just stuck with our voices. But it's been a great episode. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Charlie, for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Charlie. Appreciate it. Thank you.